chosen ones. There's a particular satisfaction spreading across your face right now. The kind that comes from watching a masterpiece unfold exactly as you designed it. 3 months ago, you planted seeds in digital soil, knowing exactly who would come to harvest them. The evidence they just discovered with such triumph wasn't hidden at all. It was gift-wrapped and left precisely where their desperate hands would find it. They're celebrating in their group chats right now, waving their discovery like a trophy, completely unaware that what they found was never your weakness. It was their obsession dressed up as your vulnerability. The trap wasn't even sophisticated. It was simply understanding that people who hate you will always believe the worst story about you. So you wrote them one. The realization started small, didn't it? You noticed the screenshots accumulating, the way certain people would view every story you posted within minutes, the archived posts, the analyzed comments, the obsessive documentation of your digital footprint. They weren't just watching you casually, they had turned stalking you into their full-time, unpaid internship. Most people would have felt violated by this level of surveillance, but you saw opportunity where others would see threat. You recognized that when someone becomes that fixated on your destruction, they become predictable, their moves become choreographed by their obsession. All you had to do was provide the music, so you began the performance. That vulnerable post at 2 a.m. wasn't insomnia speaking, it was calculated vulnerability, engineered to look like accidental honesty. The contradictions in your stories weren't mistakes, they were breadcrumbs leading exactly where you wanted them to go. Every deleted post that they managed to screenshot, every leaked message they discovered, every piece of evidence they collected was actually you handing them the rope, not to save themselves, but to hang themselves with their own eagerness to see you fall. The beauty of your strategy lies in its simplicity. People who are obsessed with destroying you don't want the truth, they want confirmation of their hatred. They want evidence that justifies their bitterness. They need you to be fake because your authenticity makes them feel insufficient. They need you to be exposed because your light makes their darkness visible. So you gave them exactly what they craved, a villain to unmask, a fraud to expose, a story that confirmed every jealous thought they'd ever harbored about you, and they swallowed it whole without tasting the poison. While they were dissecting your decoy, sharing their findings in group chats, building their case against an illusion, you were documenting everything. Every screenshot they took of your fake vulnerability, you took 10 of their real cruelty. Every moment they spent celebrating your manufactured downfall, you were recording their genuine character. They were so focused on hunting you that they never noticed when the roles reversed, when the observed became the observer, when the prey became the predator, when the victim became the architect of their own obsolescence. The evidence they're proudly presenting right now is designed to expire, not through your intervention, but through its own fundamental falseness. Tomorrow, next week, next month, when the real truth emerges, their proof will crumble like ancient parchment exposed to air. But more importantly, their credibility will crumble with it, because they didn't just share the false evidence, they celebrated it, they amplified it, they built their entire identity around it. When it's revealed as fiction, they won't just look wrong, they'll look obsessed, unstable, and exactly like what they accused you of being. Consider the psychology of someone who dedicates months to destroying another person, the hours spent screenshotting posts, the energy invested in analyzing every word, the mental real estate dedicated to someone they claim to despise. This level of obsession reveals something profound. You live rent-free in their minds. Your existence is the axis their insecurity rotates around. Your success is the mirror that shows them their own stagnation. They needed you to fall because your rising reminded them that they're standing still. But here's where your genius truly shines. You didn't just give them false information, you gave them false victory. There's a difference between deceiving someone and letting them deceive themselves. You created conditions where their own hatred would lead them to the conclusions you wanted them to reach. Their bias became your brush, painting the picture you designed. Their eagerness to believe the worst about you made them blind to the trap they were walking into. Watch their behavior now that they think they've won. The gleeful sharing of your exposure, the righteous indignation as they spread their version of your downfall, the recruitment of others to their cause, building an army to fight a ghost. Every action they take, thinking they're destroying you, is actually them documenting their own moral bankruptcy. They're creating evidence of their own obsession, their own cruelty, their own dedication to darkness, and you're archiving all of it. The layers of your deception run deeper than they can fathom. You didn't create just one false trail, you created multiple narratives, different stories for different audiences, contradictions that would later reveal themselves as intentional. Now they don't know which version they found. They don't know what was real, what was planted, what was interpretation. This uncertainty is eating them alive. Every piece of evidence they collected is now suspect. Every conclusion they drew is now questionable. Every ally they recruited is now wondering if they were recruited to chase shadows. Meanwhile, your real evolution happened in the blind spot created by their fixation on your false self. While they were busy attacking the scarecrow, you were building the farm. While they were celebrating the destruction of your decoy, you were constructing something indestructible. While they were spreading lies about your fake persona, you were strengthening your real foundation. They were so busy fighting yesterday's version of you that they never noticed tomorrow's version growing beyond their reach. The timeline of their realization is predictable and beautiful. First comes the small crack in their certainty. Someone points out an inconsistency in their narrative. Then another person notices something doesn't quite add up. Doubt spreads through their conviction like cracks through ice. What was solid becomes questionable. What was proof becomes suspicious. Then comes the moment of horrific clarity. Usually late at night, when they're alone with their thoughts, scrolling through everything they've collected, suddenly they see it, the pattern, the design, the intentionality behind everything they found. The realization that you wanted them to find it hits like cold water. The understanding that you knew they were watching, that you prepared this meal for their hunger, that they devoured it without questioning the ingredients. This is when the real haunting begins. Not just public humiliation, but private horror. The knowledge that while they thought they were puppet masters, they were dancing on strings they couldn't see. Every move they made was predicted, planned for, accounted for in your strategy. They'll replay every interaction now with new eyes. Every time you seemed vulnerable, was that calculated? Every mistake you made, was that intentional? Every piece of evidence they found, was that planted? The paranoia becomes their new companion, because now they'll never know what was real and what was performance. They'll question their judgment not just about you, but about everything. If they could be fooled this completely, what else have they been wrong about? The smartest ones among them are already going quiet, deleting posts, disappearing from conversations, hoping everyone forgets their involvement. The foolish ones are doubling down, trying to salvage something from the wreckage of their credibility. But both responses lead to the same destination: irrelevance. Because when you build your entire identity around opposing someone, and that opposition is revealed as an attack on an illusion, you don't just lose credibility, you lose existence. You become a footnote in someone else's story. If this message hits your spirit, hype this video so more chosen ones like you can find it. This is the fundamental truth they never understood. Relevance isn't taken, it's given. When you base your entire existence on tearing someone else down, you give them the power to make you obsolete simply by refusing to fall. You didn't have to destroy them. You just had to let them destroy themselves against the fortress of your planning. While they were distracted by the puppet show, you were building the theater. While they were focused on the illusion, you were constructing the reality. The cascade effect has already begun. Watch as their allies start distancing themselves. The people who believe their narrative are beginning to question everything. The chorus that once sang their song is going silent. This is social obsolescence in real time. When your entire purpose evaporates, you don't just lose, You ceased to matter. They thought they were writing your ending, but they were writing their own epilogue. They thought they were exposing your truth, but they were exposing their lies. Consider the hours they invested in this pursuit, the mental energy dedicated to your destruction, the emotional investment in your downfall. Time they could have spent building their own empire, wasted on trying to demolish yours. Energy that could have lifted them up, spent trying to tear you down. This is the real tragedy of their obsolescence. Not that they lost, but that they wasted so much life on losing. They turned themselves into professional victims of their own imagination. The most tragic part for them is they can't even claim you destroyed them. You didn't attack. You didn't retaliate. You simply gave them exactly what they wanted, a version of you to destroy, and in destroying it, they destroyed themselves. This is the elegance of strategic defense. You don't fight back. You step aside and let their momentum carry them off the cliff. Their own hatred becomes their downfall. Their own obsession becomes their obituary. But you kept receipts. Every post they made, every lie they spread, every moment of their gleeful celebration over your decoy's destruction. It's all documented, not for revenge, but for reference. Not to destroy them, but to let them destroy themselves when the truth emerges. This documentation serves as evidence of their character, proof of their obsession, a record of how easily they believed what they wanted to believe. When they see their own words, their own cruelty laid out in the light of truth, something dies inside them. The image they had of themselves as heroes of this story crumbles. They see themselves as they really are. People so consumed with someone else's downfall that they lost themselves in the process. The timestamps tell the story, months of dedication to destroying you. Countless hours analyzing your decoy, energy that could have built empires wasted on chasing shadows. This is what obsolescence looks like. Not dramatic destruction, but slow dissolution into irrelevance. Now comes the construction phase. While they're dealing with the collapse of their narrative, you're free to build without interference. While they're explaining their mistakes, you're making moves. While they're becoming yesterday's news, you're creating tomorrow's headlines. The space you created with your decoy wasn't just protection, it was opportunity, freedom to evolve without scrutiny, room to grow without resistance, time to become everything they feared you might become while they were busy fighting a ghost. Your real moves, your actual growth, your genuine evolution, all of it happened in the blind spot created by their obsession with your false persona. They were so busy celebrating finding what you wanted them to find that they never looked for what you were actually doing. And what were you doing? Becoming unreachable, becoming undeniable, becoming everything they tried to prevent you from becoming. This is the real victory. Not just that you won, but that you won while they thought they were winning. The divine orchestration of this reversal isn't coincidence. The universe doesn't reward obsession with destruction. It rewards strategic wisdom with elevation. While they were channeling darkness trying to dim your light, cosmic forces were amplifying your glow. They thought they were agents of justice, but they were actually instruments of your ascension. Every attack they launched pushed you higher. Every lie they spread cleared your path of those who didn't belong on your journey. This is what it means to be chosen. Not that life is easier, but that your challenges become your curriculum, your enemies become your elevation tools, your obstacles become your opportunities. They thought they were your antagonists, but they were actually your assistants, helping you shed everything that wasn't meant for your next level. Their hatred was the pressure that created your diamond. Their obsession was the fire that forged your gold. The spiritual law they violated is simple. What you focus on expands. They focused on destroying you, so destruction expanded in their own lives. They invested in your downfall, so falling became their destiny. They planted seeds of bitterness, so bitterness became their harvest. Meanwhile, you focused on growth, so growth expanded exponentially. You invested in strategic wisdom, so wisdom became your wealth. You planted seeds of patient planning, so victory became your inevitable harvest. Watch as the universe now rushes to fill the vacuum they created with their departure. New allies appear where fake friends disappeared. Genuine opportunities manifest where manufactured obstacles once stood. Real support emerges where false opposition once thrived. This is divine justice in action. Not through your revenge, but through their own self-destruction. Not through your attack, but through their own momentum turned against them. The lesson they'll never learn is that you can't destroy what's divinely protected. You can't obsolete what's cosmically ordained. You can't defeat someone who turns your attacks into their advantages. They thought they were playing chess while you were playing a game they couldn't even perceive. A game where every move they made strengthened your position, where every attack they launched elevated your platform, where every lie they spread clarified your truth. This is the difference between operating from ego and operating from divine alignment. They moved from jealousy, you moved from strategy. They acted from hatred, you acted from wisdom. They were driven by destruction, you were driven by construction. The universe always rewards the builder over the destroyer, the creator over the critic, the strategic over the reactive. They never stood a chance because they were fighting against cosmic law itself. As their relevance evaporates, watch your relevance crystallize. As their influence diminishes, watch your impact amplify. As their voice weakens, watch your message strengthen. This isn't karma, it's mathematics. When you subtract yourself from someone else's equation, you multiply your own value. When you stop letting others define your worth becomes undeniable. When you refuse to play in their darkness, your light becomes unstoppable. The final irony is that they'll never fully understand what happened. They'll create narratives to protect their ego, tell themselves you got lucky, convince themselves it was coincidence. But deep down, in the quiet moments when they're alone with truth, they'll know they were outplayed. They'll know they were outsmarted. They'll know they destroyed themselves chasing shadows while you built empires in sunshine. Some of them will try to return. When the dust settles and their obsolescence becomes unbearable, they'll attempt reconciliation. They'll claim misunderstanding. They'll offer fake apologies wrapped in continued blame. But you'll see through it, because once someone shows you their willingness to destroy you based on assumptions, you know their character. Once they reveal their capacity for cruelty, you understand their core. Once they demonstrate their dedication to your downfall, you recognize their true nature. This is your moment of absolute victory, not celebrated with fanfare, but observed with quiet satisfaction. The kind that comes from knowing you didn't just survive their attack, you transformed it into your acceleration. You didn't just weather their storm, you used their wind to sail further. You didn't just endure their fire, you used their heat to forge your fortune. They handed you lemons, thinking they were grenades, and you made lemonade while they waited for explosions. The watchers are watching now, not just your enemies, but those who remained neutral, those who wondered if you would fall, those who questioned your strength. They're seeing what happens when someone tries to destroy a chosen one. They're witnessing the cosmic boomerang of concentrated hatred. They're learning that attacking divinely protected souls is like punching water. The water doesn't break, but your hand might. Your transformation through this trial isn't just personal, it's instructional. Others who face similar attacks will study your strategy. Those who deal with obsessive opposition will learn from your patience. People who encounter coordinated destruction will reference your reversal. You've become a masterclass in strategic victory. A template for transforming attacks into advantages, a blueprint for making enemies obsolete themselves through their own obsession. The silence that's falling now isn't empty, it's pregnant with your potential. The space they've vacated isn't void, it's opportunity. The energy they've withdrawn isn't loss, it's liberation. You're free now in ways you couldn't be while they were watching. Free to evolve without explanation. Free to expand without resistance, free to explode into your full potential without their attempted containment. This is what they never calculated in their equation of your destruction, that you would use their attack as rocket fuel. that you would transform their hatred into your elevation platform, that you would turn their obsession into your opportunity. They thought they were your ending, but they were actually your beginning. They thought they were your destruction, but they were actually your construction crew, clearing the ground for what you're about to build. The prophecy of your rise was written in their dedication to your fall. The universe has a sense of humor about these things. It lets those who oppose chosen ones think they're winning right up until the moment it reveals they were always losing. It allows the illusion of their victory to inflate right before it pops. It permits their celebration to reach its peak right before it becomes their humiliation. As you stand here now surveying the battlefield where no battle actually took place, remember this moment. Remember how it feels to win without fighting, to victory without violence, to triumph without attacking. This is the way of the chosen, not through force but through wisdom, not through retaliation but through strategy, not through destruction but through allowing self-destruction. You've mastered the highest art of war, winning without drawing your sword. The seeds you planted 3 months ago have grown into their forest of confusion. The trap you set with patience has sprung with precision. The story you wrote for them to find has become their autobiography of obsession. They're trapped now in the narrative they thought they were creating about you, imprisoned in the prison they built for you, obsolete in the exact way they tried to make you obsolete. Your phone is quieter now, the watchers have withdrawn, the screenshots have stopped, the obsession has exhausted itself. But this isn't retreat, it's defeat. They're not quiet because they're planning, they're quiet because they're processing how completely they played themselves. How thoroughly they've been outmaneuvered, how absolutely they've become everything they accused you of being. This is the smile spreading across your face right now. Not cruel but knowing, not vengeful but victorious. The smile of someone who understood the game while others were still learning the rules, who saw the ending while others were stuck in the middle, who knew that patience paired with strategy beats aggression every time, who understood that the best revenge isn't revenge at all, it's deliberate, strategic ascension, while they deliberately obsolete themselves. The curtain hasn't just fallen on their performance, the entire theater has been demolished. And from its rubble, you're building something they could never imagine, something their limited vision could never perceive, something their bitter hearts could never achieve. You're building the future they tried to prevent, the success they tried to sabotage, the legacy they tried to destroy. And the most beautiful part, they provided the materials through their own destruction. Chosen one, this is your moment, not of revenge but of revelation, not of retaliation but of realization, the realization that you were always going to win because you were playing a different game entirely. They were playing checkers on a chessboard while you were playing in dimensions they couldn't see. They were fighting yesterday's battle while you were winning tomorrow's war. They were trying to destroy who you were while you were becoming who you're meant to be. The evidence they found was exactly what you wanted them to find. The victory they claimed was precisely the victory you handed them. The destruction they celebrated was specifically the destruction you orchestrated. Not of yourself, but of their own relevance, their own credibility, their own future. They found the treasure map you drew, not realizing it led to their own burial ground. They discovered the secret you planted, not knowing it was the seed of their own obsolescence. Watch them obsolete themselves now. Watch them disappear into the irrelevance they tried to create for you. Watch them become the cautionary tale they tried to make you. Watch them transform into everything they projected onto you. This is divine justice in its purest form, not delivered by your hand but by their own actions, not created by your revenge but by their own momentum, not orchestrated by your hatred but by their own obsession. They obsoleted themselves the moment they made destroying you their purpose. Your ascension is assured now, not because they're gone, but because you've transcended the level where they could ever reach you again. You've graduated from the university of their jealousy with highest honors. You've completed the masterclass of strategic patience, You've earned your PhD in transforming opposition into opportunity. The ceremony is private, the celebration is quiet, but the victory is absolute. You didn't just win, you won in a way that ensures they can never play this game again. This is what it means to be chosen. To be given challenges that become your credentials, to face opposition that becomes your opportunity, to encounter enemies that become your elevation. The universe knew what it was doing when it sent them to you. It wasn't punishment, it was preparation. It wasn't attack, it was activation. It wasn't destruction, it was your divine construction project. And now that the construction is complete, now that the foundation is solid, now that the structure is sound, you're ready to build something that will last long after their memory has faded into nothing. The smile on your face right now isn't just satisfaction, it's recognition. Recognition of your own genius, your own patience, your own strategic brilliance. You played the long game while they played for instant gratification. You invested in wisdom while they invested in warfare. You built your empire while they built your legend. Because nothing creates a legend quite like enemies who obsolete themselves trying to destroy you. Nothing writes your story quite like those who try to erase it. Nothing confirms your chosen status quite like those who try to revoke it. The breadcrumbs you left weren't just clues, they were coordinates to their own destruction. Each piece of evidence they discovered came with invisible metadata that recorded their discovery time, their excitement level, their sharing patterns. You embedded tracking mechanisms in the very lies they thought they were exposing. Every screenshot they captured included hidden watermarks of their own obsession. The digital forensics they'll never understand show that while they were documenting your fake failures, you were creating an archive of their real character assassination attempts. The servers remember everything, including the 47 times they checked your profile yesterday while claiming they don't care about you anymore. Remember that Thursday evening when you posted something slightly controversial, then deleted it exactly 17 minutes later. That wasn't spontaneity, that was precision timing based on their behavioral patterns. You knew exactly who was online, who was watching, who would screenshot immediately. The deletion wasn't panic, it was calculated to create urgency in their documentation. They scrambled to save it, to share it, to add their commentary about how guilty people always delete the evidence. Meanwhile, you were screenshotting their screenshots, documenting their documentation, creating a recursive loop of evidence that would eventually collapse into their humiliation. The psychological profile you built on each of them is more detailed than any therapist could compile. You know their active hours, their emotional triggers, their linguistic patterns when they're angry versus when they're gloating. You mapped their entire emotional genome through their reactions to your strategic posts. When they use specific emoji combinations, you know exactly what nerve you've touched. When they go silent for specific periods, you know they're coordinating their next group attack. Their predictability became your playbook, their patterns became your power. Consider the economics of their obsession. The actual hours invested in monitoring you could have been used to develop new skills, build businesses, create art, or nurture relationships. Instead, they created spreadsheets of your supposed contradictions. They held strategy meetings about your destruction. They formed committees dedicated to your downfall. If they had invested the same energy in cryptocurrency 3 months ago, they'd be wealthy now. Instead, they invested in your destruction and are about to experience emotional bankruptcy. The opportunity cost of their hatred is a fortune they'll never calculate. The technology you employed wasn't complex, it was clever. You used their own tools against them. The same platforms they used for surveillance became your broadcast system for false signals. The same analytics they used to track your movement became your method of tracking theirs. You turned social media into a sophisticated psychological operation where they were simultaneously the operators and the targets. They thought they were intelligence agents when they were actually inmates in a prison of perception. You architected specifically for them. Your understanding of group dynamics allowed you to predict their mob behavior with stunning accuracy. You knew that once one person claimed to find something incriminating, others would rush to confirm it rather than question it. Confirmation bias became your co-conspirator. Social proof became your secret weapon. The more they validated each other's false discoveries, the deeper they dug their collective grave. They created an echo chamber where your planted lies reverberated until they became their unquestionable truth. The mob mentality they tried to weaponize against you became the very thing that destroyed their individual critical thinking. The phases of your operation followed military precision. Phase 1 was reconnaissance, where you identified the main actors and their motivations. Phase 2 was infiltration, where you planted seeds of false information that aligned with their existing biases. Phase 3 was amplification, where you strategically fed their confirmation bias with increasingly dramatic revelations. Phase 4 was documentation, where you recorded their every reaction and response. Phase 5, happening right now, is revelation, where their entire worldview collapses as they realize they've been chasing ghosts you created specifically for them to find. Let's talk about the specific mechanics of their self-destruction. When someone bases their identity on opposing you, they create a dependency they don't recognize. Your existence becomes necessary for their relevance. Your attention becomes their oxygen. Your acknowledgement becomes their validation. By creating a decoy for them to attack, you gave them what they thought they wanted while denying them what they actually needed: real engagement with the real you. They've been shadowboxing while you've been building an empire in the sunshine they thought they were blocking. The financial implications of their obsolescence extend beyond lost opportunity. Some of them built entire online personas around exposing you. They monetized their hatred through content creation, garnered followers through their opposition to you, created communities bonded by their shared animosity. When your decoy is revealed as fiction, their entire economic ecosystem collapses. The followers they gained through attacking you will abandon them. The community they built on hatred will dissolve. The identity they monetized will become worthless. They didn't just lose a battle, they lost their entire business model. Your patience throughout this operation deserves special recognition. While they experienced the immediate gratification of thinking they were winning daily battles, you endured the discipline of waiting for total war victory. Every small loss you appeared to take was actually a strategic retreat that drew them further into your trap. Every moment they celebrated your apparent failure, you were calculating their actual destruction. The delayed gratification you practiced will now pay dividends that compound exponentially, while their instant gratification debt comes due with interest they can't afford. The forensic psychology of their behavior reveals fascinating patterns. Their posting frequency increased whenever you seemed vulnerable. Their language became more aggressive when they thought they were winning. Their coordination became sloppy when they felt confident. These patterns allowed you to manipulate their emotional state through calculated actions. You became a conductor, and their emotions were your orchestra. Every post you made was a note in a symphony of their self-destruction, building to a crescendo they mistook for their victory anthem. Notice how their allies are already beginning to distance themselves. The smart ones sense something isn't right. They're quietly removing themselves from group chats, unfollowing the main instigators, deleting their supportive comments. This cascade of abandonment will accelerate as the truth emerges. Those who were eager to join the mob when it seemed righteous will be even more eager to deny their participation when it's revealed as delusion. The same social dynamics that created their temporary army will ensure their permanent isolation. The metadata of their obsession tells a story they never intended to write. The timestamps show people checking your profile at 3 a.m. The engagement patterns reveal individuals who spent more time on your content than their own. The screenshot folders on their devices contain more images of your posts than their family photos. This level of dedication to destruction is actually devotion in disguise. They're more committed to you than most people are to their marriages. The opposite of love isn't hate, it's indifference. And they've proven they're incapable of indifference toward you. Your strategic use of multiple platforms created a web of confusion they're still trying to untangle. Different versions of stories on different platforms, timed to create apparent contradictions that were actually planned inconsistencies. They spent hours trying to reconcile these differences, not realizing they were designed to be irreconcilable. You created a puzzle with pieces from different boxes, and they drove themselves insane trying to make them fit together. The mental exhaustion they're experiencing now is the result of trying to solve an unsolvable equation you wrote specifically to break their brains. The psychological toll of realizing they've been played extends beyond embarrassment. It creates an existential crisis about their judgment, their intelligence, their entire worldview. If they could be fooled this completely about you, what else are they wrong about? This question will haunt them in quiet moments for years. Every future decision will be shadowed by the memory of how catastrophically wrong they were about you. The confidence they once had in their perceptions is permanently shattered. You didn't just beat them in this game, you made them question their ability to play any game. Consider the elegant simplicity of making them document their own downfall. Every post they made attacking your decoy is evidence of their character. Every celebration of your false failure is proof of their vindictiveness. Every shared screenshot is documentation of their obsession. They created the very archive that will convict them in the court of public opinion. You didn't have to collect evidence against them, you made them collect it themselves. They were court reporters at their own trial, transcribing their own confession without realizing it. The ripple effects extend into their personal relationships. Friends and family who watched them become consumed with destroying you are now witnessing their humiliation. Romantic partners who listened to endless rants about your supposed crimes are now questioning their partner's judgment and stability. Professional contacts who heard them gossip about your exposure are now reconsidering their associations. The damage to their reputation extends far beyond their online presence. They've contaminated every aspect of their life with an obsession that's been revealed as delusion. Your transformation during this period wasn't just strategic, it was metamorphic. While they were focused on destroying who you were becoming who you're meant to be. Every moment they spent attacking your past self, you were constructing your future self. The energy they invested in your destruction became the fuel for your construction. You literally transformed their hatred into your growth hormone. Their opposition became your opportunity. Their resistance became your rocket fuel. They pushed against you so hard that they launched you into a stratosphere they can't reach. The documentation you've maintained isn't just for protection, it's for instruction. Future generations studying strategic conflict will analyze your approach. Business schools will teach case studies about turning competitive opposition into competitive advantage. Psychologists will reference your methods of using confirmation bias as a weapon against those who wield it. You've created a masterclass in strategic patience that will be studied long after your opponents are forgotten footnotes. Their obsolescence is your immortality. The universe's role in orchestrating this reversal cannot be ignored. The timing of their discovery aligned perfectly with your readiness for revelation. The intensity of their attack matched exactly with your capacity for transformation. The depth of their obsession correlated precisely with the height of your ascension. This isn't coincidence, it's cosmic choreography. The universe used them as instruments to elevate you, and now that their purpose is served, they're being retired from your story. They were temporary characters in your permanent narrative. Now the following is a message meant exclusively for the chosen. If you are compromised by archonic forces, this is not meant for you. And by the spiritual authority conferred to us by the secret chiefs of the Obsidian Inner Order, we grant you license to depart. If not, steel yourself and listen intently, for you shall be redeemed even as we are redeemed. The Obsidian Inner Order is not a program, it's not a course, it's not some feel-good spiritual retreat. We don't sell answers, we remember together, we teach psychic self-defense, real energetic shielding against entities, implants and interference. We restore manifestation as it was meant to be, raw, immediate and exact. Every week we gather in secret, not to worship but to awaken, to speak what can't be said anywhere else, to deprogram the matrix layer by layer. You'll know if you're meant to be there. You'll feel it in your bones. The chosen meet every week on Zoom. Why aren't you with us yet? Got Gnosis? Join the Obsidian Inner Order, link in the description. Watch how they'll try to rewrite history once the full truth emerges. They'll claim they knew all along something was off. They'll insist they were never really that invested. They'll pretend their obsession was casual observation. But the internet never forgets. The screenshots exist. The timestamps don't lie. The archives are permanent. Their attempts to revise their role in this story will only add another layer to their humiliation. They can't delete their dedication to your destruction. They can't undo their investment in your downfall. They can't rewrite their obsolescence. The beauty of your strategy lies in its sustainability. You created a system that continues to work even after revelation. Even now, as some begin to suspect they've been played, they can't stop themselves from continuing the very behaviors that expose them. The patterns are too ingrained. The addiction to watching you is too strong. The investment in your destruction is too deep. They're caught in a trap that gets tighter the more they struggle. Every move they make to escape only entangles them further. You've created a psychological Chinese finger trap that tightens with resistance. Your elevation from this experience isn't just about winning this particular battle, it's about developing immunity to future attacks. You've learned how to transform opposition into opportunity so effectively that you almost welcome future challenges. You've become anti-fragile, growing stronger from stressors that would break others. The skills you've developed, the strategies you've mastered, the patience you've cultivated, these are permanent upgrades to your operating system. You're not the same person who planted those seeds 3 months ago. You've evolved into someone they could never have imagined, much less defeated. The economic value of what you've built while they were distracted is staggering. The relationships you've fostered, the skills you've developed, the foundation you've laid for future success, all of it happened while they were celebrating your fake failure. You've been playing chess while they were playing checkers, but more importantly, you've been building real assets while they were accumulating imaginary victories. The return on investment of your patience will compound for years, while their investment in your destruction has already become worthless. They purchased stock in your downfall right before your IPO of ascension. The silence that's settling now isn't peaceful, it's pregnant with their panic. They're in their private spaces, scrolling through everything, trying to figure out where they went wrong. Some are deleting evidence of their participation, others are crafting explanations that might salvage some dignity. But most are simply sitting in stunned silence, processing the magnitude of their miscalculation. This isn't the silence of rest, it's the silence of reckoning, the quiet before their complete collapse, the pause before their permanent irrelevance. Your methodical approach to this entire operation reflects a level of strategic thinking that transcends ordinary conflict. You didn't just plan for their attack, you designed it. You didn't just prepare for their exposure, you scripted it. You didn't just anticipate their moves, you choreographed them. This level of control over chaos, this ability to conduct destruction like a symphony, this mastery of human psychology as an instrument of transformation, it's what separates the chosen from the common. You've demonstrated that true power isn't in fighting battles, it's in designing wars where victory is guaranteed before the first shot is fired. The mythology they're creating around their defeat will be fascinating to watch. They'll need a story that protects their ego while explaining their failure. They'll craft narratives about how you got lucky or how circumstances changed. They'll develop elaborate theories that avoid the simple truth. They were outsmarted by someone they underestimated. These stories will become more elaborate over time, each retelling adding new details that shift blame away from their own choices. But deep down, in moments of honest reflection, they'll know the truth. They'll know they obsoleted themselves the moment they made destroying you their mission. As you stand here now, 3 months after planting those first seeds, consider the garden that's grown from their hatred. Every attack they launched became fertilizer for your growth. Every lie they spread became soil for your truth. Every moment they spent trying to uproot you only deepened your roots. You've cultivated a forest from their fury, built a dynasty from their destruction attempts, created an empire from their energy. The very forces they marshaled against you became the forces that elevated you. This is the alchemy of the chosen, turning lead attacks into golden opportunities. The return to our opening truth is now complete but transformed. That smile spreading across your face isn't just satisfaction anymore, it's recognition of your complete transcendence. You're not the person who planted those seeds 3 months ago. You're someone who has passed through the crucible of coordinated hatred and emerged not just unscathed but upgraded. The evidence they found was indeed what you wanted them to find, but now you understand it was also what you needed them to find. Not just for their destruction, but for your construction. Not just for their obsolescence, but for your emergence. The trap you set for them was actually a cocoon for yourself, and while they thought they were witnessing your destruction, they were actually attending your metamorphosis. The chosen one they tried to destroy no longer exists because you've become something beyond their comprehension, beyond their reach, beyond their reality. You didn't just make them obsolete, you made their entire paradigm obsolete. And that smile, that beautiful knowing smile, is the mark of someone who didn't just win the game but transcended it entirely. Chosen one, this is your moment, not their ending but your beginning, not their destruction but your construction, not their obsolescence but your emergence. They found exactly what you wanted them to find, and now they're becoming exactly what they tried to make you become. Obsolete, irrelevant, forgotten. While you rise into everything they tried to prevent, everything they feared, everything they knew you would become if they didn't stop you. That they couldn't stop you, because you cannot stop what's divinely ordained. You cannot prevent what's cosmically scheduled. You cannot destroy what's chosen.